All right, we are back. This is the CSRN, our weekly podcast or weekend review. What we're going to do right now is give everyone about 5 minutes to let everyone know that we're live. So today we're going to, last week, I think maybe the week before we had She Speaks on,
Yep.
she had a beautiful song for National Women's History Month. Hey, let's play that and we'll be right back.
Good.
We wear the mask that grins and lies. It shades our cheeks and hides our eyes. This debt we pay to human.
Man, for some reason or another, I can't hear hear the audio. Can't hear it at all. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to play our original intro and we'll be right back.
I must confess that that dream that I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare. Now the other thing that we've got to come to see now that many of us didn't see too well during the last 10 years, that is that racism
not guilty
is still alive in American society and much more widespread.
Broke his neck after Baltimore police.
A handful of protesters, a handful of criminals and thugs who...
Many in moments of anger, many in moments of deep bitterness, engage in riots. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention.
Mr. Gray's death was a homicide.
The Negro was freed from the bondage of physical slavery.
The athletes marched onto a stage.
But at the same time, the nation refused to give him land to make that freedom meaningful. Freedom without land to cultivate. Freedom and famine at the same time.
And create jobs for our people.
Negro is to be free. He must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own emancipation proclamation. But I want to get the language right tonight. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful. Individually, we are poor when you compare us with white society in America. We are poor. Collectively, we are richer than all the nations in the world with the exception of 9. That's power right there if we know how to prove it. We begin the process of building a greater economic base. And at the same time, we are putting pressure where it really hurts. We don't have to argue with anybody. We just need to go around to these stores and to these massive industries in our country. Say, God sent us by here to say to you that you're not treating his children right. We come by here to ask you to make the first item on your agenda fair treatment where God's children are concerned. Now, if you're not prepared to do that, we do have an agenda that we must follow. And our agenda calls for withdrawing economic support from you. We mean business now, and we are determined to gain our rightful place in God's world.
All right, that is the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, part of the CSRN intro. This is the CSRN podcast, our weekend review. I'm Brother Washington Muhammad. I am the co-founder of CSRN and also an active and registered member of the Nation of Islam here in Toledo. Today, what do I have on? I have on a black vest, a green kind of sweatshirt, whatever it is. I've got on my chakra beads, and man, do I have on my hat? Oh, where's my hat? Yeah, I have on a black hat. Oh, there you go. All right. I felt the kind of breeze on my head today. All right, just then. And as always, I'm dedicated to respecting, protecting, and defending all Black bodies, no matter the cost, no matter the gains or loss. This is the home of Black Lives Matter and Justice or Else. It is National Women's History Month. Jody and I are going to talk about how much we value the Black woman or women in the Black woman in particular. This week we have on our sister Rhonda Sewell and sister Yvette Muhammad to wrap up Black Women's History Month or Women's History Month. Not that we're not going to have women on here anymore,
well, but same with Black History. I mean,
okay, yeah, we're here for it.
After the month is over, it becomes 24/7.
All right, there. Okay, I should have said it like that. Mm-hmm. All right, I think that I've introduced myself and what I have on, and if you could introduce yourself. Looks like you have on a Irish pin. Okay, well, I guess we're going to have to get into that.
I actually do have a new one on this week. Let's see.
All right, okay.
What's up, everybody? Jody J. Summers, child of the system, better known as Spoken Truth, the treasurer of this wonderful organization. And for those of you listening out there, whether it be on Spotify, on YouTube, Facebook Live currently right now, or even going back to rewatch old episodes like last week, we had Ambrea on.
Right.
I said that right? I think
Ambrea. Nikolajczyk.
Yep, he's got the
right,
Polish name.
That's right.
I just can't. Too many letters and consonants in my brain. But for those of you out there again listening, I am a big brown bear of a man that is covered in tattoos and crystals and bones and stones and bits and pieces from 8 years of traveling independently. Right. This Thursday marks 8 years for being told the poets don't do nothing to change the world except show up to over mics to
change the world.
Changing world, raising flags, speaking inside the Supreme Court of Ohio as an honorary paid guest.
That's right.
Poet, not entertainer, not celebrity host, poet. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. And what he mentioned is, yes, I actually this week do have a new pin on because I hosted my first music concert, the Mud Made Music, which, you know, music concerts go as they are. I've hosted open mics and movie theaters and scholarships, but this one was mine. It didn't turn out perfect, but it did turn out awesome. No fights, no arguing. There was a lot of vendors that came back to us after a thing to let us know it was their first time vending in a public space and they felt welcome. I performed, friends of mine performed. Not everybody could, you know, you have 29 artists on a show and like 10 vendors. Some things might get left out, but
true.
At the end, it happened. We survived. It is Tuesday now, so on to do it all again.
All right. Hey, listen, we got a really great show today. I guess we're going to be talking about Survivor Series. and you had attended that. So before we do anything else, can you hit us up with the mission statement?
Yes.
And I'll come back and get the do the guiding principles, and we'll keep it moving.
Yep. And yeah, Survivor Speak. I'll be talking about that, but I do believe we have one of the moderators or administrators from Ohio, Mr. Anton, should be on his way here. That can explain a little bit more than me than just the guy that shows up and has been doing this forever, but the more inner workings of what Survivors Speak is, part of Crime Survivors for Justice and all that. But just like them, just like us, this is going into year 9. How do you get there? You have a mission statement.
Right.
You have a foundation on which, no matter what somebody offers you as far as money or clout or coming in to try and rework your organization because they have ideas,
right.
You have something that keeps you rock solid. So this is our rock solid in our mission statement. When we used to do in live personal every weekly meetings, which we may still go back to having a in studio audience or stuff like that. But for right now, this is how we open. We are the Community Solidarity Response Network of Toledo, formed on November 25th, 2014, the day after it was announced that the killer, a Ferguson, Missouri police officer of Michael Brown, an unarmed teenager, would not be indicted. We bring awareness to the injustices experienced by Black men, women, and children who are disproportionately murdered, attacked, provoked, and harassed by law enforcement. Police brutality has to end. We bring awareness to the fact that most often police brutality goes without consequence and accountability. Police impunity has to end. We utilize the tactics of protest, civil disobedience, event disruption, and citizen advocacy to give voice to those who are otherwise voiceless. We facilitate progressive, community-based events that help foster self-development, and we discuss measures to hold local leadership accountable to their sworn duties, be they politician, clergy, law enforcement, educators, etc., etc. We want justice, equal justice under the law, equal justice applied to all, yes, all, regardless of class, creed, or color, for all lives to matter. Black lives, yes, Black lives must matter. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
All right, what we're going to do, we're going to get into our guiding principles. And after that, we're going to talk about our Black Lives Matter moment. Yep. You know, we've been doing this since 2014 together. You were on the ground floor of all of this when not too many people saw this more than just a protest.
Right.
All right. And there weren't many people that saw this as a movement. And this was formed, I think I failed to mention that it was founded by Mike Leonardi and Jabril Bey. Back in 2014, they had an idea that just regular people could come together, speak truth to power. Later on, they asked me to come and help with a event they wanted to do at the Doug. And after that, hey, we don't stop. Right. So these are our guiding principles. After we have our mission statement, how do we stay together? These are the things that keep us together. All Black lives matter, queer Black lives, trans Black lives, formerly and presently incarcerated Black lives, poor working Black lives, wealthy Black lives, differently able Black lives, Black men and women lives, immigrant Black lives, Black elderly and children lives. All Black lives matter and are the creators of this space. We throw no one under the bus. We rise together. Ashe?
Ashe.
And Ashe means one who changes a thing or one who makes a thing happen. Thriving instead of surviving, our vision is based on the world we want, not the one we're currently in. We seek to transform, not simply react. We want our people to thrive, not just exist, think beyond the possible. Ashe?
Ashe.
Experimentation and innovation must be built into our work. Embrace the best tools, practices, and tactics, and leave those behind that no longer serve us. Ashe?
Ashe.
Evaluation and assessment must be built into our culture. Critical reflection must be a part of all of our work. We learn from our mistakes and our victories. Ashe?
Ashe.
principled struggle can exist in a positive environment. We must be honest with one another by embracing direct, loving communication. Ashe?
Ashe.
Love, self-love is practiced in every element of all we do. Love and self-love must be a driver of our work and an indicator of our success. Without this principle and without healing, we will harm each other and undermine our movement. Ashe?
Ashe.
360-degree vision. We honor past struggles and wisdom from elders. The work we do today builds the foundations of movements of tomorrow. We consider our mark on future generations. Ashe?
Ashe.
Self-care means we build resilient spaces by budgeting time, energy, and resources for healing. Self-care is a regular, consistent, intentional, and essential practice. Ashe?
Ashe.
The most directly affected people are experts at their own lives and should be in leadership at the center of our movement and telling their stories directly. Ashe?
Ashe.
Training and leadership development should be fundamental. Our movement must constantly grow and leadership must constantly multiply. Ashe?
Ashe.
So before we take a short break and come back, I wanted to ask you about your Black Lives Matter moment. We've done protests, scholarship funds, food giveaways, political forums, shut stuff down. Out of
awards.
Right, awards, yeah. And we just had people were complaining about the Oscars. All right. Hey, we just make our own awards. All right. So of all the things that you've been a part of with CSRN, what's your Black Lives Matter moment that stands out to you?
And first I want to say, if you guys were paying attention to our opening, we did add something into the beginning because we are always inclusive into taking advice from stuff. So we added in
when part of our guiding principles is defined of all Black Lives Matter. And in the beginning, there were some things that were left out, either intentionally or unintentionally, and we added in. One of the pieces that was left out was men. There was no Black men. And also another thing that was left out is wealthy Black people. All of our lives matter, not just us as poor and working class, but some of those who may be affluent, right? Their lives matter too. So this week, and we're gonna big shout out to Umbrea for letting me know that and say, okay, I like that. All right. Yeah. So good looking Umbrea, Mikolajczyk, and shout out to her whole family for making our guiding principles even more inclusive to us. All right. So good looking.
So I think, and because there were so many, I'm going to combine them into like one memory in my head.
Okay.
Is the 2018, 16, the presidential election with Mr. Orange Man.
Okay.
Something that like we really hadn't done before was a presidential one since the start of the organization. And there were many of them. We had one out Heather Downs, one downtown,
right?
Actually, a couple of downtown, and that was a very interesting turning point because you also got to see the opposition right there in your face, screaming back at you about Orange Man, who I hear is doing something now and he's supposed to get arrested today. But anyway, little clips I get from just social media and trying to interact with people. But that was a turning point in that even with all that opposition on the other side, and it wasn't BLM supposedly related, it was who was going to control the country. We held fast. We met so many people.
That's right.
And in a way, like if you look back, like you were saying, we were protesting, and some people thought that. To me, when I first came to board, this was my civil rights movement. I never saw it as just one protest. This was the beginning of something bigger. And it did become that way until 2020 happened and we started trying to pay people to save people. But it still has outlasted a lot of organizations of Stop the Violence. Or if you can tell me that there is a specific level of crime, you see color. for all those that say, what
Right.
about black on black crime? Well,
Right.
that means you saying I don't see color. You do, but you just see the specific crime you want to.
All right. I should be writing this down for later on. Yeah.
But not only that, but being a Buddhist and doing all of the stuff that I do has taught me patience and learning that, again, what may be a protest to somebody could be someone else's civil rights movement.
All right. All right. Good looking. My Black Lives Matter moment happened. I think this had to be maybe 2017, 2018. There was an issue going on downtown, whereas ProMedica was setting up the, I guess it's not the Market on the Green, Uptown Green.
Yeah.
All right. And as they were setting this up, it seemed to appear that they were pushing all of the homeless out.
Mm-hmm.
So they had one of their sessions where they wanted to have community input. So we showed up, and there was a sister that was with us, Katrina Backham.
Yeah.
And I'm forever thankful for her. So Katrina, if you're looking, watching this now, big shout out to you. Much love and respect. She's a Native American sister, but she might appear Caucasian. And she has this thing that she does that's called the burn. When white folk call out white folk, that's something that they can't handle, and particularly in public spaces. So the fact that she could pass white or appear white to some added an extra layer to it. So when there was some conversation going on in this meeting, she stood up and she made some comments that made the facilitators extremely uncomfortable, so uncomfortable they had to change the policy. Whereas now, if you drive by Uptown Green, if you find some of our brothers and sisters just sitting, taking a rest, no one's pushing them out.
Yeah.
All right.
So being a former homeless person and stuff like that, we did good work. Unfortunately, you can't stop money machines. So ultimately, that was an eatery across the street. And what they did was buy the eatery so they wouldn't be able to congregate. So small wins, small victories, also it gave them the opportunity to be like, oh, well, you know what? We'll just buy the building and keep it empty forever.
All right.
And that's what they kind of did.
All right. Well, that just means that we just have to show back up there again. All right. That gave me an idea. We'll have a food giveaway right downtown. All right. That let them know. Hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and talk about Survivor Series.
Speaks.
Survivor Speaks.
I was saying that too.
Hey, why was I saying so? I posted
that's a wrestling thing. I did too several times. And then I get there and I'm like, oh,
you know
this
what?
Isn't wrestling.
Okay, it's Survivor Speaks. So everybody that's tuning in thinking that Jody and I are going to wrestle, I'm sorry. You're going to be greatly disappointed. It's Survivor Speaks. And somebody needs to go up on my page and take that down and put the other one up. Survivor Speaks, Survivor Series. How the hell did that happen? Hey, listen, hang tight. This is CSRN, our weekly podcast or podcast week in review. We'll be right back.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
Hey, I'm Dr. P. Not only am I a leadership coach, I'm a change agent and I'm a race scholar. I've used my study of race to dismantle systems and organizations, but I also use that to help you as the individual become a better leader for your families and for your community.
All right, we are back. This is the CSRN Weekend Review, our weekly podcast where we come to you live and talk about the things that we've done last week. We're going to talk about Survivor Speaks and a few other things, some of the things that we're working on right now. And I think a lot of people are putting together their Juneteenth programming right now.
I've heard that
Right.
from a couple people already.
Right. And I don't know if there's a special election coming up or not.
I'm so based on what we got from This Week in Toledo with Sean Nestor, there may not be, because to have a special, there is kind of, I guess the news broke that. For those of you watching out there that may see me, I'm Central Committee, not just in the, that's the office that I hold. The people who decide who head up the parties and all the random stuff, the city beekeeper, the coroner, and everything like that. We are those few. So we got an email a little while ago, and then as I was on my way to work, I saw it already broke in the news. But unfortunately, Michael Ashford is stepping down. The people like me, Central Committee and Executive Committee, are going to be holding a vote very soon to figure out who our next president of that political party is going to be.
Okay. Okay. That was a long way to get there. But anyway, we got there. So the things that we've done last week, some of the things that we're working on right now, and a few things that we've got coming up in the future, which is next week. We've got Rhonda Sewell from the Toledo Art Museum and Sister Yvette Muhammad from the Nation of Islam. That kind of put a cap on the National Women's History Month. And that just means that we go for our sisters 24/7 after that. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to do before we move any further is to give our Nguzu Saba word of the day. Our Nguzu Saba word of the day is Kujishagalia. That means self-determination. And that's defined as to define ourselves, name ourselves, and create for ourselves and speak for ourselves. And as we just talked about earlier in our Black Lives Matter moments, they just had the Oscars, and people were upset because Angela Bassett wasn't given an award. All right, and for us, it's like, well, okay, what do you? All right,
I'm not surprised.
All right, how?
This is the way things be. I'm sure.
Yeah, how? Look, however, Black people put so much into every industry, and sometimes it's like, even though I don't expect little to much from our former slave masters and their children. But I believe that a lot of people expected her to win. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. And also what that means is to create spaces for ourselves. And we realized that when some local award programs weren't giving us our due, which they shouldn't, because we need to celebrate ourselves. And we had what we call the Black Lives Matter Awards. And we've done that three times.
Yep.
And looking to, maybe we need to bring that back.
Yeah, so far we've given away almost 40 awards.
Right. We need to bring that back. And to create for ourselves, define ourselves, name ourselves, and speak for ourselves. And speaking of speaking for ourselves, last week we had Survivor Speaks. I know that you are a participant, not necessarily an organizer, but they can't have Survivor Speaks without survivors. And when I think about Survivor Speaks, what makes you a survivor that speaks?
So and I never think about it, because again, this Thursday marks 8 years since I've been speaking. Before then, but it didn't much make any sense until I found poetry and writing books and artwork and stuff like that. So where my background comes in, because I'm in rooms with most of the people that do speak out are women.
Yeah.
And I'm this big burly dude with tattoos and then all this stuff with this super deep Barry voice type of voice. Very white type of voice. I guess my story in personal is after foster care, being taken at 14 by the Child Protective Services and stuff like that, once I emancipated out and my sister was adopted to a different family, a week after my 19th birthday, detectives came to my door, or my grandmother's door, to let us know they had found our mother's body. Um, Fast forward, it was Sasha Bray from our stuff. It was one of her first
Okay.
cases getting her teeth cut. It turned out to be a serial killer. He actually got caught 2 years after the fact.
Wow.
One of the women escaped. I think it was like
Yeah.
14 or 24. He was dumping bodies out at Metcalf Field. It was a whole big case at the
Yeah.
time. Thankfully, long before social media really got to what it is right now. But that is my backstory of surviving. Just like I have a few friends now that are going through the loss of their parents for the first time,
Right.
and it's a little different because a lot of people that are my age have memories in their adulthood of their parents. I don't. Um, so when I go through these things, when I write these books, when I perform at this stuff, I have to kind of front load my conversation with what happened to me instead of just being like, you could talk if you don't want to. It's mostly everybody staring at me like, why is this dude here? He's gonna have to explain why he's here because I
Right.
don't want to open up in front of him and all this stuff. Because unfortunately, there are men who are predatory that come to stuff like this, and I've seen them over the years, and they're only there to pick on somebody vulnerable.
Right.
I'm a celibate Buddhist monk,
Hey,
so
I wanted to ask a question about that because you've got a unique story. You're a man in survivor spaces, and sometimes us as men, we don't feel comfortable being in those spaces in a genuine, sincere way. All right. You said that during foster care that you were emancipated out, and just for everyone that may not be familiar with that language, the only time I've heard emancipate was the Emancipation Proclamation. So, what do you mean when you say you were emancipated out?
So when Child Protective Services, no matter where you go, you can either be like they used to make movies about it, Shirley Temple and all that stuff. So you can either be adopted by a family,
Okay.
or you float with families until you turn 18. Emancipated meaning that I wasn't in custody of anybody. My sister, she got adopted because I had moved her
Okay.
into a different family, who was my foster family at the time. But stuff happened. I chose not to be adopted because when you get adopted, your parents change on your birth certificate. A lot of stuff they don't tell you.
Oh wow.
My name, my legal name now is not the legal name I was born with, because when they adopt you or you become part of Child Protective Services, your name gets changed in some variation. So I legally have two names with the same social security number. And I
never knew anybody that.
It freaks people out when they do
Yeah.
background checks on me, but I
Okay.
kind of actually learned that a couple of years ago because it always was irritating to me. And then again, my sister, she has a different mother on her birth certificate, which I didn't know that happened. But technically, until I was 18, I was awarded a state, kind of like being in the prison system.
Okay.
Then emancipating, you can go through classes. They give you stipends and stuff like that to try and help you to become an adult. But in the end, you turn 18 and that foster family doesn't want to take care of you no more, or it feels your time you're gone. You're off to the wolf. There is no growing up with parents or having somebody to link. I can't go to CSB and be like, hey, I'm having a bad day.
Right.
So I learned to adapt. It took some years. Went on a walkabout, was homeless for like a decade, and lived in the woods and all kinds of stuff. And now again, I'm comfortable in those spaces because of all that self-care, self-work that I did on myself, and the Buddhism I practice helps me with that. I see people as humans. It's weird, but gender and stuff to me is something that is so fluid that I'm not actually attracted to you in that way by your body. If that's a way to explain it. So I have to be attracted to somebody through conversation, through time. Other than that, you're a person with a person. It's hard to explain.
Okay.
I never really try to explain it to people, but that's why I'm comfortable in so many spaces. Like I go to different types of erotic shows and stuff like that, and I'm just sitting up there snapping and clapping, and other people are like uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh,
Okay.
because it doesn't bother me anymore.
Well, that brings me to my next question, and thank you for sharing, because people might see us a lot in what we do, and I think that some people may appear that we are simply sign holders, and we have we got a megaphone, so sometimes people might just think that this is all to us, a protest sign and a megaphone. I wanted to ask you, you talked about being in foster care, not being adopted, being emancipated, being homeless for a decade. How is it that you're here and I'm not talking to you as we talk to people from the prison? You're not a hashtag. We don't have you on a t-shirt, or or justice for, I'm not going to say justice for Jody because I don't want to put you there, but I've said it. All right, so watch your back. Why are you here and instead of
So many are not,
and so many are not?
and I that I truthfully couldn't give. Like people always go up to people and like, give me the answers to your life.
Yeah.
And I guess it's the right concoction of stuff that happened in my
Okay.
life to stop me from going too far. Many people, I've done a vast array of stuff. Some of it not the best, but thankfully, again, there was no social media. There was no gossiping about stuff that you do to survive, even if it's uncomfortable for you at the time. But somehow, some way, I managed to make it through, to get through, to be a survivor and not a victim of the things, the atrocities that happened to me during those years that are kind of forgotten. I literally don't have baby pictures of myself or stuff like that. I have poems and pieces that I talk
Right.
about this stuff, but that's how I talk to the world. So a lot of people, when they see me at these events and they're like, yeah, it's Jody, we finally get to, and I'm in the corner somewhere because that's my safe space. I'm there for engagement as much as I can, but mostly I don't really talk a lot. I talk through my art, through my books, through engagement and community service. But what happened at the Oscars or with this sports team, I stopped watching TV almost 20 years ago now.
Right. I saw your face when I started talking about the Oscars. You had to look. Well, okay. So what does that mean?
Yeah, to me, it's
okay.
And when I do interviews for shows or senators and stuff like that, they go through that, the random list, favorite color, who's your favorite artist, who's this stuff, and I'm just kind of blank on that. I can mention a lot of local people. I can mention a lot of people I engage with on a daily basis because those are the people that are famous to me. Whoever celebrity that has signed a contract is not really their person. I've met some of them. I don't need to throw names out there, but it's a person. They just had a different set of, I guess, ingredients that put them there where you're not, but it does not mean they're better than you.
Okay.
They're all people.
All right. Survivors, not Survivor Series, but Survivor Speaks. We're going to get into that because you just went to the event in Columbus.
Yep.
All right. You just went to the event in Columbus. And what I wanted to ask you is, being a survivor, when did you realize that spoken word would be one of the things, along with everything else that you do? When did you realize that spoken word was going to be one of those vehicles that would bridge the gap between who you are and and who you could possibly be.
March 23rd, 2015. My very first open mic. I'd heard of poetry. I think I even had somebody I dated at the time take me to a poetry show. But until I got on stage and said my story, and I have to thank Keisha Renee, K Renee, she might be mad at me, but for pushing me into that moment because until you do something, which you're probably not going to be good at the first time, you're going to fail. She says she still has, and I want that video one day so I could put it up on my page of me there with this piece of paper, nervously trying to get these words out. But at the end of it, I got snaps, I got applause.
Wow.
I got people telling me I feel that way or something has happened to me, and I've never been able to say that. And from that moment, it was like I found a purpose. I found something that didn't leave. I mean, people still call me weird. Child mind. I made a poem out of it. Now I get residuals. But I found a way to take my weird, unique set of stuff and a little bit of part of the spectrum um, to help people, to make people. I've created so many authors and people that come to open mics now. It's weird. It makes me very humble to know that even though I don't feel I fit, I'm familiar but not the same in almost anything that I do. Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to get into Survivor Speak. Okay, they're just going to put it right over our faces. I say good help is hard to find. All right, so Survivor Speak. When did you find out that this existed? Were it not for you, I would not know that this existed. When did you find out that this existed, and how did you get involved?
Actually, last year, because when all of that stuff happened to me, there was no assistance. I couldn't call up CSB, and that's in one of my poems, and be like, what do I do? And then a guy by the name of Anton Parks, who may or may not still be coming on the podcast today, time schedules, restraints, and stuff like that. But he sent me a friend request or a message about it. And it was the first time I'd ever heard of it. I didn't know they existed. They're actually called the Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. That is the umbrella organization over everything. It's a whole bunch of work that goes in between changing bills and speaking to lawmakers and a lot of stuff. Hopefully he does show. Also, shout out to Desha Darby. I believe the Ohio, like over the Ohio coordinator and stuff. But I went last year and I started because last year was also the time of me. It's a looking in the mirror of forgiving yourself for all these years of wrongs or things that stuff that people put on you that we hold forever. Some people are never able to let that go. Some people, I feel blessed and cursed in a sense because there's lots of people that have been through my situation that just don't speak no more. They didn't make it out. And for going there and seeing like, oh, this is real. This isn't another group that's trying to get grant money or trying to do stuff. And the moment they get that, they disappear. I think they've been going for 13 years, I want to say.
That's
a little bit
awesome.
longer than us. And there he is. He's coming on in the door in a moment.
All right.
Yeah, so when I found out about this, it was probably I cried a little. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm a big man. I'll beat people with people, but it was something that made me feel really good because there were people who cared and not just somebody trying to profit off of somebody's survival. It's a lot. My story is even in Survivor Speak unique because a lot of people have been through trafficking or domestic violence. There are very few people that could say their parents were murdered by a serial killer and all of this stuff. So this year was different. That same poem, when I went there last year, as I was checking my emails because he gave me the time for this year and I was amped. I was going to be on the bus again and just doing the poem and stuff. And I got an email that said, we heard that you actually do poetry. Would you like to be an honorary paid person to speak on the podium? So I chose Crucible again, since that's the first thing that I got to do. And it was beautiful to see so many people. A lot of Toledo went there this year. Shout out to Ash, shout out to Rochelle, shout out to
Ladina.
Ladina,
All right.
Althea, Custom Treats, not Custom Treats, Custom Creations, but a whole bunch of people, and Anton, because had he not started communicating and telling people about this, we wouldn't know, because there are so many distractions among nonprofits and groups that you really don't know who to trust.
Yeah, that's a fact.
My first time being at the State House was with Planned Parenthood for the heartbeat bill.
Right.
And then all of that kind of fell apart and stuff like that. Still love them for
it is what
stuff,
it is.
But this, I believe, was something real that keeps going on.
Before we're going to take a short break, we're going to come back with our brother Anton Parks. How can you go through what you've gone through and not be bitter? I've organized with you, and also I wanted to ask you about 5 minutes of heat. I was with you in 2014. I was with you in 2015. We were having our in-person meetings, and we wanted to close out with something different than meeting adjourned. So I asked anybody if you can have a poem, and you had a poem.
Yep, dead silence, no justice.
Yeah,
no
we never
peace.
heard you before. We thought that you just showed up and looked weird in the corner, as you always did. All right. So before we take our break, how can you go through what you've gone through and not be bitter? How does that happen?
I guess in that decade that I disappeared, went off in the woods and did all kinds of day labor jobs, that was my bitter moment.
Okay.
That was my using my muscles and my strength and the damaged nerves I have in my body where I don't feel stuff to just do everything. I built roofs, I built sewers.
Oh, wow.
Anything you can imagine, because it was day labor. One day we could be working in a sewer. The next day we could be building a Walmart. We didn't know. We worked in car factories. And because I was holding on to so much, whether I broke a finger, I've had the reason why I can do this so proficient.
Oh no.
Is because one of the pallet jobs I had, the nail gun hit a knot and went straight through my fingers. And so I could do that permanently now. I lost all my fingertips at the carnival because of the pinch point on the gate. And I could tell you, in reality, they grow back. They were smooth for like 3-4 months, but I didn't feel none of that.
Wow, okay.
Because I was holding on to so much. That I found poetry and activism and community, people who actually care versus, again, using your pain, your trauma to gain $1. And that's when everything started coming off. Every book I release, every piece of art that I release is a unburdening of myself of things I didn't deserve to go through. And it's the guy who murdered my mother. I don't hate him. I was unable to go to that court hearing because this is 21 years now. But I know he got multiple life sentences. I don't look that stuff up. This is also why my stuff is public. If you Google me, that type of stuff pops up because of so way the world works. But I don't need to see that anymore because that's in my past.
All right. Hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back with Brother Anton. Hey, listen, I want to thank you for being our guest today. All right. We don't normally have you as a guest, but when we talk about Survivor Speaks, and it will be difficult to have Survivor Speaks without survivors. Yep. And then having the actual survivors come and speak, not have some professional say what they think you should be saying. All right. And we got stuff like that. All right. And listen, we're going to take a short break and we're going to present a short commercial regarding Brothers and Sisters United with our sister Avis Files. This is the CSRN, our weekly podcast or week in review. We'll be right back.
Pathway Incorporated Brothers United program believes that children are important. Every day we support and advocate for fathers because when children have involved fathers, the whole community thrives. The fathers that come into the Brothers United program are mostly young fathers who are primarily gang members or drug dealers or those involved in lots of trauma from the time when they were youth until now. This program has fatherhood classes which teach you about your role as a father, the importance of being a father, healthy relationships, how to co-parent and work better together with your co-parent, and then economic stability, how to get a job, how to keep a job. It is so important for fathers to learn to take care of their children holistically, not just emotionally, not just physically, but financially as well, because children need a holistic approach.
I really just needed help with really being a better father and looking for a job to be able to support my kids.
Some of the problems I was facing when I joined Brothers United was communication with my children. Had some time apart from each other for a while, so they gave me the tools to really get back in communication with them.
Fathers will come into our program with their heads down. 2 weeks later, their heads are up. 3 weeks later, they're laughing and talking. 4 weeks later, they're building a bond. And by the time we get to 8 weeks, they're saying, hey, we want to stay here. What can we do to stay connected?
It gave me a better perspective on how to look at things from other people's point of view. You know, sometimes us as men, we get caught up in being prideful and arrogant, thinking we don't need the help. We do. And we just have to put our pride, selfishness, and arrogance to the side. And when the help is there, take it.
Hope plays the most important role in everything that we do because we have to have hope. We have to remember that fathers are important, and we have to not only say it, but we have to live it, we have to breathe it, we have to do it, we have to convey it to everyone.
Let's get a BU Nation on 3, fellas. 1, 2, 3, BU Nation!
The dads give us hope. The dads supply for us on the days when it gets hard. On the days when we've seen more violence than we ever want to see. On the days when we've lost some dads to jail or to murder, they give us hope. And so the hope that lives can change, if you invest in them, if you believe in them, then lives can change.
Brothers United changed my life, let's say, because of where I come from, what I've been through. I learned to understand it is help out there. Don't be scared to ask for it. If you don't reach, you can't grab. That's it.
They made me more employable, more desirable by employers, which in turn helped me provide for my family and provide for my children and my grandchild. So it makes me a better man, a better father, and a better example.
It showed me like how to be better to my kids, so I went and got custody of my son. My son been with me for a couple months now. So this showed me how to be a better parent all around, just a better man, period.
Initially, I didn't know that it could change men's lives. I didn't know that fathers could change. But it's amazing to me when fathers come back a year later, 2 years later, and tell us thank you. Or they'll make a Facebook post and say, look at what I'm doing now. It's amazing to me about the level of work that we've been able to do and the lives that we've changed in just a short period of time. And the fathers who come back and say, thank you, I needed you, and you were there.
Shout out to Brothers United, man. Be you.
All right, we are back, man. We had some really awesome visitors on our break. Usually, Anton, on our break, we get a chance to say, hey, here's what we're going to talk about. Here's this and that. But we had Sister Dawn stop by the studio. As you know, we broadcast live from Mott Branch Library or Mott Conda. And I really want to thank Sister Celeste Felix, and the staff here that rolls out the red carpet every week to give us, man, just everything that we need to have an awesome podcast. All right. Having said that, not that Celeste doesn't matter, but we need to keep it moving.
We love Celeste.
Yeah, right. Let me put that in there. We love Celeste. All right. Hey, listen, we're talking about Survivor Series. We've got a special brother here today. You may have seen him from previous podcasts, but we have new people that watch this podcast every week and stream it every week. Brother, who are you? What are you wearing? And what are we talking about today?
Oh man, well, I'm Anton Park Sr. Today I'm representing crime survivors for safety and justice. I got on some stones, some beads. I just bought from the sister this weekend.
Oh, that's what's up.
Sea crystals. I love her. She plugs in for little bit to no money when it comes to this type of stuff. And
that's right.
Yeah, she also causing good wires. But yeah, crime survivors for safety and justice. Before I get into that, I just watched a part of that commercial for Brothers United. Sister Avis had 3 of the young men that we mentor, the alumni of Brothers United, come with us to Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice Survivor Speaks this year. And I was very honored for her to send 2 17-year-olds and 1 16-year-old father for us to give some guidance, mentor, and help them with their trauma recovery. Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, Survivor Speaks. It is a group of crime survivors, people who have literally survived, victim crimes, a lot of different things. We come together and we actually go to the legislators. We bring issues. We bring our needs to the legislators. This year, we're fighting for more, and I shouldn't even say fight. We are striving for more funding for trauma recovery centers. You will hear CRCs in the news and the media, but trauma recovery centers, we have one in St. Vincent's Hospital, and there are well-rounded services that deal with the needs of crime survivors, past police and court. So you hear of victims of a crime, but there are also mental health services. People need to be in housing spaces where they're safe, safe houses, which we call them in the TRC arena. And amongst other things, such as laws that protect you from losing your home or gives you the ability to break a lease if you're in an unsafe situation post the crime or the victimization of yourself or your family. Last year, we had laws be passed, which it helps people who have people in their family who have felonies or who have committed crimes. Usually that will stop victims from getting the subsidies they need post their victimization because their dad or brother has a felony in their home.
All right. One of the questions that I wanted to ask, because I'm new to Survivor Speaks, I would not know about this were it not for Jody linking us together. Yes. And me, like a lot of people who are genuinely ignorant about victims' rights, would say, hey, listen, why is this even needed? Because once the police show up, we always thought that everyone gets taken care of once the police show up. So
well, that's the truth to an aspect. The police can only enforce laws or arrest people and charge you with things, and then the court will, do their job in interpreting the law. But then past all that, we are all impacted by crime.
Right.
So there is a perspective to look at where most people who perpetuate crimes were victims first. And then once they were a victim, they got no solutions to what victimized them. And so they become predators, usually in the same aspect that they were preyed upon. We are the solution because we are people who were preyed upon, but we have come together to not only, change legislation, offer trauma recovery services, but to be people who are impacted and know what it's like to go through these things and walk with you through the whole aspect of your trauma recovery or any other needs you may have.
My next question, as I asked Jody, why do you even care? You could easily not care, go on with your life, be successful as you are. What is it that made you care about other people?
I just think it goes back to the nurture part where they say the things you put into your children, it's going to manifest when they, reach struggles as an adult. And once people reveal to me what my traumas were and how to fix them, not only point a finger at me and tell me what was wrong with me, they came with real solutions to lead me to the space I'm in now. And so in 2017, when I first heard about Alliance for Safety and Justice and Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, I was asked to be an organizer in 2019. Here in the library, we had a meeting and then COVID hit. But to answer your question, you have people that are just good and you have people that are bad. When you're put to the coals, you'll see what you're really made
Oh,
of.
wow.
And
Yeah.
this is that time period. There is a great need. There is a lot of resource money and solution in the community now, but there's a disconnect with the media, the news, and the people receiving the resources from the people who are, receiving the subsidies now. So I had to care because I went from a person who needed help to a person with the information to help. And so when you get that information and the ability to help, it's are you a good or a bad person? And so I think, me just being the person I am, I was led to this space. And so Jody, like when I was invited in and brought to this space, I invited other people. And so it's growing. We went from a couple people sitting at a table discussing, crime survivors to hundreds of thousands of
That's
people across
awesome.
the country.
And I've seen some of the people that's been involved. These are legit people. Jody is the real deal.
Yes, sir.
So it's not as if you are bringing in well-versed professionals to speak on Jody's behalf, and there are organizations that do that.
Yes.
And they look insensitive and uncaring, even though they're proposing that they're part of something important, but you have the wrong people in place. Tell me about how are we going to bridge the gap between the resources that you're talking about that are here and the people that don't know that they exist? How do we bridge that
Well,
gap?
the first thing would be the people who everybody thinks I only do this, and so they can't be the solution. But I have teachers, mental health professionals, felony reentry workers, different programs that usually couldn't work together, working together right now as a resource. So we just have to step out, do what we can do as a community as a whole, delegate what people will be doing. And the major part is we're all impacted by trauma in one way or another.
Right.
It's impossible to say, I know somebody who's never been impacted by trauma. The thing is, we have to share the resource and information. A lot of people get information and resource and they want to captain that ship.
Right.
In spaces like this is a space where lives are at stake in the community. So we have to share the information and resource. So we have Brenda Glass. She has a trauma recovery model that's being enacted in Cleveland and different spaces where it's actually working. Toledo, we are not only bringing that here, we are trying to work out the kinks where we have a trauma recovery center that's the complete opposite. So instead of complaining about what we have at St. V's and who's running it, we're just trying to bring solution to fix the problem. If I can add one thing,
Yeah,
this is
absolutely.
a prime example. We fight for at the ACLU in different spaces, women maternal rights and different things. And like spaces like child support, we should have a lot of influential, males that go to work, that pay child support, that, have insurance, know about bank accounts. So we can change the narrative of something like that and make it about, connecting the family, keeping the dads out of jail, putting them to work, putting them back in school, being a mediation and a help to the family instead of a hindrance. And so changing legislation and all of us coming together and making the decisions in instances like that will change the tide in what we're receiving from our community. We have to be the change we need to see because we are the impacted.
Now, do you see, and thank you, brother, it is an honor to have you on our podcast so that when we report out about the things that we've done in our community, that people also know, hey, look, it's just not us. There are people doing a lot. All right. And when we talk about the lives that we live, and particularly Black lives. It's much more than a protest downtown, or it's much more than a political form, and we've had all of those things. But we also want to add some other layers to the lives that we live. And I wanted to ask you about the stigma of being a victim. One of the things that we have in our community is no snitch, no snitching. Snitches get stitches. And it, for some of us, we may pull back from saying that I'm a victim. How can we get through the stigma of recognizing myself as a victim and then getting the help?
Well, okay, so with that, I'm gonna give you a quick example. I got a call. Okay, so there was a RICO Act enacted in 2013 in Georgia.
Okay.
I'm one of the few people that was kept out of that was in the platform of saying, hey, we're reformed gang members, we're feeding the community, we doing community work, and then coming to find out there was a lot of, negative things going on behind the scenes, and so they took care of those things. So I haven't talked to one specific person who testified against everybody since then.
Okay.
So they gave me a call and said, hey, in my case, there's somebody you've been fighting for. If you look in my case, what's in my case will free them because they have recordings and documentation that this murder happened and he's in jail for this murder, but they already proved somebody else did it.
Right.
So I called this guy and I said, hey, so-and-so called me and said they got evidence, check this case and look, have, somebody to investigate. And he tells me that snitch, that, this and that. And last I heard, and I said, bro, I don't care about that case, what she got going on, what you got going on. Please listen that I'm telling you, she called me out the blue and gave me your freedom. The feds had to agree to it for her to even contact me.
Right.
And so some people don't want to be free. You can't shake people and wake them up. We have to provide, the role, like the sister was just talking about, the honorable minister, provide the information. And then when people are ready, or the creator gives them the ability to understand the information. So sermons he gave 10, 15 years ago, I've just seen on Facebook, and they resonate to me now where they wouldn't have resonated to me back then, and I never heard them back then. Some people are not ready. Some people can't go. So once we set up politically, socially, economically, and we are, what we need to be, we're going to have to cut ties with some people with the same skin color and from the same community. Some people just don't have it. When we say don't snitch, that means I robbed, shot, sold with you, and then I told on you to reduce time. Most of the times what it is that people witness things that you shouldn't do in front of anybody if you're committing crimes, and they're supposed to tell. That was the difference between any time before now. People kept it away from the elderly woman in the community,
That's right.
the pastor. They were ashamed to do the things that they do in
That's
public
right.
because they know they were supposed to chastise them and report them. So
That's correct.
now we have to get into definition of what snitching is snitching. If I'm with you and I'm young and I'm dumb and I see you murder somebody and I tell you no, or I don't agree with it, where is it that I should stand on your choices? Because I just told y'all a young man is sitting in prison for life, and I just told him where to find his freedom. And he's more concerned with the label of getting information from a snitch than worried about his freedom and justice. So politically, socially, and economically, we definitely need to organize. Spiritually, we got to get our houses in order. And even if that's just recognizing what a mother, a father, and the family structure is, starting there, we have to get back to something organized. And that's the whole purpose of Survivor Speaks. That's the whole purpose of most of the organizations like Brothers United, to give us a fighting chance to restore our families, to restore our political, economic, and social, platforms. Because if somebody just politically is put into play, there are no use, they're not viable.
That's
and
right.
With the others. But if you have a group of people set, and that's why I brought child support up. I'm not against child support. I'm against the current setup. Why don't we have in our community a group of fathers who are successful fathers? That's just like they say, we don't want old white bearded men telling women what to do with their bodies. We also don't want old white women telling young black, males what to do with their bodies. We need to empower these men out of prison and back to work, back to, working in the community
Right.
as community.
Right. That's beautiful. Man, of course they're going to be flicking the lights on and off in here.
For
And
sure.
but you know what? If we don't say it in spaces like this, uninterrupted, then it's not going to be heard.
You're gonna get a
All right,
sound bite. You're gonna get a
right,
snippet that don't even fit the narrative.
right, and we don't. This is live, so we don't go back and edit it and edit his part out. This was designed to free us. CSRN was designed to give us a free voice, and Jody and I and many others had to fight to have this space. And there's a price that you're going to have to pay for this type of freedom.
Yes, sir.
All right. And I'm willing to pay that price. I've had to pay that price, and I'll go back and pay that price over and over again in order to have a brother Anton here to speak his mind without me saying, well, brother, I don't see it like that. Or, brother, I really think that we should have other people decide what we need to do. All right. We're done with that. And if it means that we have to go alone, if it means that we have to go with just the 3 or 10 of us, then fine.
Yes, and see, with Crime
Go ahead.
Survivors for Safety and Justice, we've identified a lot of like minds that have power. And when I say power, we are minister, business owners,
Yeah.
nonprofits, a lot of voices that have been through something, but we're from different arenas where we can strengthen each other. So, yes, it's definitely be able to change the legislation that's binding us to bad policy for trauma recovery survivors. Also, to be able to empower the community to know how to do this legislation, where the dollars at, where the help is, and also how to build your own trauma recovery network within the space that you're in.
Now, I'm really glad that Jody, because of Jody, we've linked to Survivor Speaks through CSRN.
Yes.
So everything that happens with Survivor Speaks, we rubber stamp that. All right. We co-sign that, regardless what somebody thinks, no one can choose who we align ourselves with
Right.
for our freedom, man.
And the better good. Yeah,
and
greater.
so we don't do that. If someone wants to support us, fine, but there's no condition.
Yeah.
All right. There's no agreement that, well, I'll support you guys, but you just can't bring Anton on. All right.
Right.
And we've had those types of things. And, hey, it is what it is. I wanted to ask you this question before we take a short break, and we're going to come back with our shout outs and solutions from Jody in our 5 minutes of heat. Men in survivor spaces. I talked to Jody about that. I've been a part of some of those spaces where it's predominantly women. Man, how do you fare in being in spaces where it's survivors, but sometimes you see a few of us? How do you operate in that?
Well, so I can say I've had a different experience because I come from a felonious background and a gang background. I deal with different layers. So Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice and Alliance for Safety and Justice has a program called Time Done. So when we do CSSJ events, I also have to take that information to 50 gang members,
right,
and also share it with different felons. So I'm in a more balanced space, and it's more men than women now. But when I first started, it was like 99% women. It was probably like 2 or 3 of us in the room. We've been able in the last 3 to 5 years to build out a space where we can get the message across to more males. So we are having a greater turnout where we can have like you guys interested. This is an all male room right now, and all 3 of us are involved, when usually it would be like, all women speaking on it and doing
right,
the work. And then we're looking for the help once we're in the bad space. So yes, but we are definitely growing it out. I think it's more of the maternal instinct why they all got involved first, because when you realize you're dealing with the mental health, the physical health and safety of our, young men and women, and then our adult men, you start to understand that, there is a need to get the men involved. And women
Right.
are traumatized. They deal with things like rape and,
Yes, sir.
different things. But again, from a maternal aspect, I think that's where they're more opted to try to heal before we catch on.
All right. Now, before we take a break, for whatever reason, our tech team didn't load any of your information on the in the software. We'll get at them afterward. All right.
Definitely.
All right. So if someone has saw what we said, what you said, and they want to be involved with Survivor Speak, how do they contact you?
Definitely public Anton Park Senior on every platform: Google, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. If you put Anton Park Senior in your phone, you should get a full rundown. Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. We definitely have a website. Also, Daisha Darby. You can look her up on Facebook. She is our state director. She is wonderful. Also, Candace Williams, that's our ASJ organizer for the state. She's our political organizer. Definitely reach out. Like I said, just type in Google Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. I implore you, we are all over the country. This is a network of people who care, and you can be empowered to make a difference, not only in your local community, but how to change legislation, how to deal with trauma recovery spaces, and your victims of a crime, as well as a lot of other things.
Brother, I want to thank you. And also, when Jody first told me about you, and when I first talked with you, I'm like, okay, let me Google this guy, see if he's the real deal. And just going on your page, you can see everything that you're involved in. And I was taken aback, all right, because we're in a type of work that people will show up. Hey, Brother Washington, Jody, I do this, that, and the third. And we're like, okay, let me check you out, bro. You don't do that. You don't do that at all. Matter of fact, I think you asked me for $20. All right. All right. And this, it does happen. All right. If I had Jody here, he would rubber stamp and co-sign everything that I'm saying. However, it was different with you.
Yeah.
All right. We cleared you, and yeah, you legit. All right. Everything add up to what you're saying. It is a nationwide organization. It's not like
we are the largest crime survivors network in the nation.
And it's not a local thing. It's not a local thing. I like what we do, but it's a local thing. Hey, it's all well and good. But you built different. So family, please Google him, go on his Facebook page, Anton Parks Senior. Find out about this, because with the environment and the communities that we live in, yes, there are victims. And unfortunately, we've lost sense of what it means to keep our community safe. We protect the predators, and we punish the victims. We have it backwards. Yep. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. I say that every day. Because we need to know what it is. Brother, I want to thank you for joining us. Family, this is the CSRN, our weekend review. Hey, we're going to be back with Jody with our solutions and shout outs in 5 minutes of heat. We'll be right back.
Audio Jungle.
All right, we are back. I wish we could have transitioned the music to fade out gracefully instead of just shutting down. All right, well, soon, family. Hey, listen, this is a call out for anyone that does sound editing or anything like that. We broadcast live from my branch library every Tuesday at 6 p.m. If you ever wanted to be a part of the social justice movement and you may have wanted to just help out with giving some advice on sound, because obviously our tech team is not it. So I guess we put them on notice tonight. All right. Hey, we're looking for their replacements. All right. So anybody that wants to show up, look at what we do, look at the people that help us, and either boot them out or give them some pointers on how to make this a bit more smoother experience. It's live, so there's no breaks.
Yeah.
All right, there's no breaks once we start. I think the only thing that we've got maybe is some applause that happens every once in a while, but that's about it. All right. So, family, what I wanted to do right now is go through our community shout outs and solutions. This is the part of our podcast where we pretty much go over some of the things that we're looking to do and also shouting out some of the people that really make it happen. One of the things that I wanted to mention first is some articles from This Week in Toledo. This Week in Toledo is a compilation of local news stories that's put together by our brother Sean Nestor. So shout out to Sean. I think one of the first things that I wanted to lift is regarding, hey, where was this story at? Oh, it says that on Wednesday, and this is last Wednesday, Lucas County recorder Michael Ashford announced that he will be stepping down as the chairman of the Lucas County Democratic Party. It says the party's central committee, I think you're part of that, will elect a new chair. I just shouted you out. The party's central committee will elect a new chair during the meeting on April 10th. So on April 10th, after April 10th, we're expecting Jody to come back and tell us something. All right. All right. Didn't mean to shout you out like that, but hey, it is what it is. He says, until then, Vice Chair Catherine Hernandez will be acting chair. So we'll be looking out for that. And also this Thursday, the city of Toledo will host its annual Democracy Day inside council chambers. That's going to be at One Government Center, and you may have something to say about that too. He said this event was created as a result of a citizens' initiative in 2016 requiring that a public hearing on the issue of corporate personhood and its role in corrupting the purpose of government. So we were kind of on the ground floor of
Been
that.
there every year they've been able to have it.
Right.
Of course, during the visible virus years it was.
Right. And we were part of the, man, I don't want to say amend.
Men to a move.
Right.
Men to move.
Amend to move. Move to amend.
Move to amend. That's what it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I'm staring at his face right now.
So shout out at our brother, man, we need Doug. Sweet.
Yep.
All right. Yeah.
And Carol.
And Doug and Carol for spearheading this and making it a thing.
Yep.
All right. So those are a couple of articles that I wanted to lift up from this week in Toledo. And also on Thursday will be the first day of Ramadan. Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar observed by Muslims worldwide as a month of fasting, prayer, reflection, and community, a commemoration of Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, first revelation. The annual observance of Ramadan is regarded as one of the 5 pillars of Islam and lasts 29 to 30 days from the one sighting of the crescent moon to the next. So every year, Ramadan moves back 11 days. So if it starts this year on the 23rd, well, next year it's going to be 11 days back. All right. And it's going to be back until we're having Ramadan in the summer, where the sun goes down after 9. So to all the Muslim brothers and sisters and anybody else that wants to practice Ramadan, and you can do that if you want to fast along with us, that's partaking of no food or water during the daylight hours. All right. So that will be no water. You can fast from smoking. You can fast from drinking, from relations. So it's really from sun up to sundown, just a day of reflection. No arguing, Jody. So, we refrain from arguing. And it's a day that we refrain from the things that are lawful. All right. Food is lawful. Drink, water is lawful. Those things are lawful. But we refrain from those in order to strengthen us for the things that are prohibited. So, hey, join us for Ramadan 2023. First day is Thursday. So this week, next week, hey, I'll be fasting during this time. So if there's any water that I want, it's going to have to be before sunup. If there's anything that I want to eat, it's going to have to be before sunup. But I've been fasting, participating in Ramadan for 31 years. So it's like, okay, it's that time. And it's really not a fast. It's really, you're just abstaining.
Yes.
A fast will be 24 hours plus no food. All right. So, hey, listen, family. So I think that's all I got for today. Jody, other than Democracy Day, I think you're going to be there.
I'll be there. The 23rd is turning out to be that's my 8-year anniversary.
Okay, and it's the first day of Ramadan.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's Democracy Day.
Okay,
there's
all
open
right.
mic that night. There's a lot of.
Let me see if I can get off work early or put that cardboard cutout at my desk and leave early to be at Democracy Day.
The National African American Black Caucus is meeting that day. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening Thursday.
Right.
The more and more I look at Thursday, it's like, wow. So I thought about how I'm going to do what's going on in the community. And because this week was a little bit more than what my usual weeks are, I kind of typed it out.
Oh,
so
all right. Look at you. Look at you being organized. All right, go ahead.
Well, I made a post about it, but as a way to kind of organize that stuff, because being a one-man everything, some things get forgotten. I haven't really made a full album update of what I do in almost 2 years now. People don't know that. After my revolution around the sun, not my anniversary, I have 11 anniversaries throughout the year, but only one birthday. Only one birthday. And I won't be in country to celebrate that birthday for the first time. But so this isn't forever. I'm turning Julian.
Shout out to Julian.
Shout out to Julian. Shout out to Ruth. Shout out to all of the people that's continued to add bits and pieces to the organization and go on to build their own.
That's right.
But so 9 performances in 3 cities and 1 state capital. That included here, the Sylvia Sparks Show, performing at the state capitol, performing at Steve's North, or not Steve North, but for St. Martin, the church that's right by the library. I think it's St. Martin de Porres. Performing there, performing several other places, podcast and everything like that. Sold art, gave away art, hosted my first music concert. That's this pin. Shout out to everybody that came for the Mud Made music. Shout out to Chris. Shout out to Terry, my stage manager, who did, 3 people doing the best they can.
That's right.
2 podcast interviews. Interviewed a multimillionaire. Shout out to Ambrea. Graffitied several cities. We won't talk about that too much. Took my first acting class. Shout out to Toledo Film. I wound up at the library, and there actually happened to be a concert going on. I still can't remember the lady. I think I tagged her on Facebook and social media. Saw a live concert. Lost my voice. It still can happen even after 8 years. Inspired the youth and adults at a national book fair. Shout out to the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Fair that we held at Rossford. Shout out to Joni.
That's what's up.
Shout out to all the organizers. Jaden came through, and it was beautiful. The poem that I wrote while I was there last year with Hunter Prey and Joni, I have now memorized and added into my collection this year. We had One Single Rose, Rosemary Wilson. You may see her all over the place. So shout out to you. Loved your work. Added more equipment to my display table. Got ring lights. You might have saw that at my concert. Signed and gave away more books. Gave away 2 more Black Santa Claus boxes. I am still doing that. Dropped charms on 4 individuals. Attended a Comic-Con. That was also Toledo Fantastic Con. So many people coming up to me, asking me what character I was, and I was just me. This is my everyday attire. Had someone announce that the poem that they were about to read, they wrote because of me, and I inspired them to continue to go to open mics. Made several $100s off of my voice, and then had to spend it to make sure my event was debt-free unexpectedly.
That's right.
Being an adult. Probably lost a few more people who thought they knew me and made comments without communicating with me their feelings first. It happens.
Yeah.
Lost my voice. It's almost fully back now, though. Speaking, and spent 21 hours running between several events to make sure the people who attended got their money's worth. That's what a normal week is like for me. A couple extra things in there, but yeah, shout out to all of the people who do things. Shout out to the Arts Commission. Shout out to Brothers and Sisters United, because
that's
I
right.
They added the sisters part. So gotta check in with Avis to make sure that's all clear. But shout out to them. Shout out to Sean Mahone and Change Academy. Shout out to the Interrupters.
Yes, sir. The Interrupters.
The Interrupters. Shout out to Mad Poet Society with Robin Jones. Shout out to the Frederick Douglass Center for continuing to do stuff in despite of what funding or what people show up, they're still there. One of the most active community centers that I see in the city.
That's right.
What is that? The one on the south end. They do a lot of stuff too. I can't think of their name at the moment. But shout out to anybody that's doing stuff and they're not waiting on grant money. They're not trying to tell people that they are the only ones that can help them, and they're connecting with people, including vendors, including spaces. Shout out
I think you were talking about the Believe Center.
The Believe Center, yeah.
Sister Tanya Duran.
Yep.
All right.
Shout out to anybody that can see other people's dreams and try and help them turn them into a reality.
That's what's up.
So I think, again, make sure if you have something going on, I put the word out, and I'm probably going to keep putting that out there. We are a free radio show. This is 3+ years now.
That's right.
If you want to come on, like Anton or anybody, if you want to podcast in, you're more than welcome to. We don't work for sponsors. If you got a commercial and it's something good, positive, and nurturing to the community, let us know. We'll try and get you on here. We'll try and put you in a schedule or have you come up and not have our tech team mess it up.
We said try, all right? So most likely it's going to get messed up, but we're working on that.
Yep.
We're working on that. All right, we're talking about 5 minutes of heat. And we talked about earlier how you found spoken word and how maybe at our live meetings may have been one of the first group of people to hear you.
Yep.
Right. And we also were the first group of people to see you read from a piece of paper.
Yep.
Too, which turned
Before
into
I learned how to memorize stuff.
And before it turned into an actual book.
Yeah.
All right. So it's been beautiful to see your journey. I want to thank you today for talking about your survivor story.
I had to
Thank
watch
you.
this show back.
Right. Thank you for talking about your mom, for talking about how the serial killer was caught. And I have a story about that. There's a lady that I work with. She was the last person that he tried to murder. And to this day, she still suffers from all of the broken bones that he gave her, and she was left for dead. Somehow she got away, found the will to get away. That was the last person that he victimized. And this sister, we may have her on to tell her story. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful lady. I was with her last week. We had to travel for work to Findlay.
Wow.
And to hear her story.
Oh, wow.
And then to be connected with you is amazing. You know, is amazing. And I've been a lot of places, got a lot of stories, but I just wanted to lift that just to show how resilient survivors are.
Yeah.
Given the right circumstances, all of us have had trauma, some more than others, but we can survive and we can thrive. All right. So regarding 5 minutes of heat, what do we have today?
Well, befitting of my 8-year anniversary, and people ask me, why do I keep showing up? Why am I not famous? Why do I keep going to just sometimes holding the wall open mics and stuff like that? And I had to kind of put it into perspective within my poetry. There's a piece called Gravity in my second book that somewhat explains it. But this year, as I've been seeing, the last 15 to 20 poems I've written have not so much been I poems, but me statements. Through my poetry, I use myself as the catalyst to relate to other people, but there are a handful of poems before now that actually talked about my personal journey. So my name is Spoken Truth. That's the persona that I take on when I go on stage, that last name that I speak that allows me to do all of these amazing things that people, I don't know, that I take for granted a lot of times.
Yes, sir.
So, truth is, let's begin. Peace. I perform and create to keep my demons at bay. It silences the sound of doubt, regret, feelings of not being needed or unworthy of praise. Every stage, community event, new poem, or piece of art keeps me alive just one more day. To know that I did something that inspired someone else quells the idea that I should just disappear today. Muffles the sound of all those that told me I wasn't good enough to stay. It's not the applause, snaps, purchases made, or seeing my persona on the event that day, but knowing, yes, knowing that I am needed for at least one more day. It can get very lonely quickly when people think that you're everywhere, when the feeling of you being new or unknown has worn off, and now you're just another note in the chorus of people who do things, but you're really just trying to survive, trying to outweigh the thought of being useless, trying to yourself that it wasn't just a fluke, wasn't just some off chance that people decided to listen to you, to read you, to conversate about what you drew, continually trying to keep up pace in the never-ending race of falling into obscurity. You're not shiny anymore. You're not moldable anymore. You've done so much for so long that you're quickly forgotten about in places you used to love to go and disappear. People feel that they know you by what you expose on stage or in public spaces, but have no idea what you do outside of this space where it's safe. So it's one more stage, one more project to create, one more place to show your face so you can outpace, outrace, and escape the feeling of never being good enough to stay in peace.
All right, and as always, we don't clap our hands. All right, we snap. For those that like what we do, if you want to support what we do, go to our YouTube page. We'll share that in a second, but we'd like for you to subscribe, like, share, and comment on what we do. We are trying our best to get 100 subscribers. I think we're up to 10. All right. I need to subscribe. So I think we're more than 10. But we want you to go to our YouTube page. That's Community Solidarity / YouTube or whatever it is. But just go there and like, subscribe, comment on what you think on how we're doing. You can find us on all of these platforms on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Twitter. We got to get that going a little bit more too. If you want to support us via Cash App, CSRN 419, PayPal, CSRN 419. We've been having some problems with our Cash App, so if you get something that bounced back from Cash App, hey, just go to PayPal. We really appreciate everybody that's been in the chat, from Audrey to Joe to even Jody. Oh, that's you. Okay. For everyone that's participated, for Jalen, everyone that's participated in our chat to keep us motivated. We want to thank Anton for coming through. Last week we had Umbrea. We also had She Speaks and Sister Diane Gordon. I hope I didn't leave anybody out.
Are Pretty and Protected.
Oh, man, look, Haley is an employee. All right, no, I'm kidding. But thank you for Pretty Protection and our sister Haley for coming through. We'll be looking forward to seeing her next week.
Yeah.
All right, next week.
Yeah, full week.
Right, next week we'll have 3 of our sisters here. We'll have Haley here from Shears from Pretty Protection. We're gonna have our sister Rhonda Sewell. I'm not messing it.
Toledo Museum of Art.
Art, and Sister Yvette Muhammad from the Nation of Islam. So we're going to put a cap on Women's History Month, which means that after Women's History Month, it's Women's History 24/7.
365.
And as always, all lives can't matter until
Black lives
matter. And Black lives can't matter until
all
Black lives matter. Justice Earl.